Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for Fantastic Four issue 17. And this was a pretty interesting issue because it kind of changes up the origins of the Fantastic Four. And I really didn't have that much of a problem with it. It still keeps the same basic premise, but there's some added kind of things going on with it. So we pretty much start off the issue with a flashback with Skye and the rest of the Unparalleled before they were the Unparalleled, and seeing that her beloved was among the stars and not on the planet, and this of course freaked everybody out. The Overseer pretty much came up with some kind of plan and saw that the Foretold, of course the Fantastic Four, were changed by the storm and started implementing his own plans to start changing the populace of Spire. Now, granted, interestingly enough, certain people were having pushback to it because they thought they had a perfect society already, and this would be introducing mutations and aberrations into this perfected society. You always kind of have to watch out for that shit. So, of course, we see some people start exhibiting the powers, and others having kind of Ben Grimm-like effects. And how to keep their society perfect, they put the monsters in the below and everything. So then we switch back and we see that the people that have the more kind of monstrous effects were like, we didn't even think about really coming up here. And I was like, screw that. This isn't a perfect world if it's not made for everybody. And that's the great thing about Ben. He wants to have like as many people as possible, accept as many people as possible, because otherwise you just start having a haves and have-nots, and then you start dehumanizing people, and then you put them in an underground kind of portion and kind of fuck them over. I don't like these people. And so we see all the different kind of things kind of going on. We see that Johnny is kind of bonding with Skye, but he's seen that the Fantastic Four signals lit up, so he goes to kind of investigate. But the Overseer, of course, has Skye want to go off to deal with the monsters and everything. We also see that the ones that are built for, like, after the sun are sent over there as well, and they kind of, like, take off of going after Reed and Sue, even though the Overseer can't really see him because Sue's doing the invisibility thing. It's like, oh, so evidently we're supposed to be going to the Hall of the Heroes. Sounds like there's something pretty bad in there, since the Overseer pretty much spouts that over pretty much, I wouldn't call it a comm channel, he just makes a big glowing green eye and says shit. That is not secure. No. So, they pretty much then get into contact with Johnny, with Reed pretty much punching out Skye. And we have a funny kind of conversation where Johnny's like, hey, she's my soulmate. And it's like, oh, God. I love Sue's reaction. She's like, this is Crystal all over again. Sweet Jesus. Now, granted, Johnny's like, oh, you guys are soulmates with the soul bond. And I'm like, well, that kind of worked out. We don't really know what the soul bond actually really entails. So we'll have to kind of see with that. But they're like, fine, whatever. We're going to go to the Hall of Heroes. You do whatever you want to do. Of course, Skye wants to know more information about this whole Crystal scenario, and they go off to do their thing. We see that Reed and Sue are able to get to the Hall of Heroes, deal with Citadel and Belter, and this was a nice little action scene because Belter was able to see them with the movement of the dust particles and everything, and Sue has a little, I don't say difficulty, but she's got to like mess with Belter a little bit, and I like how she deals with him. Citadel really had no chance against Reed Richards because even though he's big, he just pretty much boa constricts the dude. And like, stop shrinking. It's easier to constrict your windpipe, dude. It's funny because Reed didn't even go into the kind of thing of like explaining like really technical. He's like, you're making your windpipe smaller. I can more effectively constrict that. Okay, whatever. So Reed's trying to figure out how to get into the hall, and Sue's like, screw this shit. And pretty much makes this thing of, like, force field air and, like, blasts in. And she's like, okay, we gotta get this done because if we're not careful, Johnny's gonna be married in a couple hours. But then Reed's like, conversely, if we wait long enough, he will most likely be divorced in a couple hours. So they're, I kind of like that joke. I'm like, yeah. Reed's got a point there. So they're able to find these devices that he's able to, the Overseer's able to use to mess with the storms and even amplify them and everything and get some data from them. We then get over and we see that Johnny is pretty much trying to help out the Unparalleled without knowing what's going on, because you know when you do these kind of things that it starts to kind of escalate and get out of hand. So he's helping some people. So guy's like, hey, you could be one of the Unparalleled. Yeah, you could start as my sidekick kind of shtick. And then Johnny kind of goes in, but he sees Ben. They kind of get together and are like, hey, what's going on? It's like, this guy's like, hey, calm down. To the other Unparalleled, I'm trying to get him to our side. But then the Overseer's like, hey, Sky, you can kind of fix your fuck up. And I'm like, you're blaming all this on her? And talking about how her betrothed, since we'd been off-world, started this whole fiasco and all that. I'm like, you asshole. She, of course, says, screw that. I didn't break this world. And then he's just like, all right, fine. Screw you, pretty much. But Reed pops up and they're like, hey, I found out what you did, man. And pretty much lays down that his shielding was strong enough that the Overseer probably used the Fantastic Four as kind of a test case scenario, because he can redirect and amplify the storms and created the Fantastic Four. Because otherwise they would have just landed there peacefully and probably would have started expanding in like a human empire and everything, and galactic kind of civilization. It's like, oh, this isn't good. And if that's the case, you get the Unparalleled and all the other powered people and all the people that are like Ben, and it's like, why did you do this? So, the Overseer is in pretty big trouble, and that's definitely going to be intriguing to see how that kind of fallout hits on him, because he could essentially have an open rebellion on his hands. Now, granted, there will probably be some people that will be like, hey, you gave me superpowers, I'm going to be your friend and help you out in these tough times, but we'll have to see. He's like, oh, crap. So, those are my opinions on the issue. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.